Kingfisher Interpretive Center, Lesson 4, Bugs.
So, welcome to the Kingfisher Interpretive Center, boys and girls. My name is Tiffany Furlong, and today we are going to be looking at aquatic invertebrates. Now, you might be wondering, what are aquatic invertebrates? Well, it's pretty simple. They're just bugs that live in the water. The word aquatic invertebrates, we can split it into two. First, aquatic just means water, and invertebrate means that they have no spine or no backbone. Do you have a backbone? Yeah, you do. What else? What about your dog? Does your dog have a backbone? Yes, it does. But these little bugs do not have a backbone. They have something else. We call it an exoskeleton. This exoskeleton covers the outside of their body, and as they grow bigger and bigger and bigger, these bugs can shed their exoskeleton and regrow a new one. Just like how your feet get bigger and you're going to have to get new shoes. Kind of similar to that. Or, do you know a snake, how they shed their skin? It's also similar to that. These bugs will shed their exoskeleton when they get too big. And that exoskeleton helps hold everything together, kind of like your backbone. But because they don't have a backbone, they have an exoskeleton. So, today we are going to be exploring two different types of habitats. Both of these habitats might have different species of aquatic invertebrates, but we'll find that out when we go. This is also a fun activity for you and your friends or your family to do. It's very easy, but I'll also explain that once we get there. So if you're ready, I'm ready. We can grab our gear and hit the road. All right, welcome boys and girls. Here we are at our first stop, this beautiful pond. So right away when we look at this pond, do you think we're going to catch lots of bugs? Well, let's see. When we first look at the pond, what do we see? We see lots of vegetation, such as grass in the water and shrubs on the side. This is perfect environment for our bugs. Why? Well, the vegetation helps bring in lots of different bugs, such as our mayfly, which actually eats vegetation. And then those bugs attract other bugs, such as predatory bugs like a dragonfly. Those bugs then can come in and feed off the other bugs that will eat vegetation. So all these bugs then can have a healthy habitat. But it's not just food. What else do they need? Well, they need, one, the water, but two, they're going to need lots of places to hide. And this is why the vegetation around the edges of these ponds make it so perfect for our bugs, because they can camouflage themselves into the different areas in the grasses and the shrubs, and then they can actually protect themselves from other predators, such as our salmon, as long as turtles and birds in this pond. This pond has lots of other creatures that live here. It's not just the bugs that make it really important. So, while we dive in here, all you're going to need today for you to be able to catch any bugs, I have a large D-net plus a large bucket. But for you at home, all you need is a small bucket and a small net, such as these. These will be perfect for you and your family at home if you want to do this. So first step, we want to fill our bucket with some water. So here I have some water in here, but you can also fill your little bucket. Fill lots and lots of water, because these bugs are aquatic invertebrates and they're going to need water to survive. Then we can take our net and just start swirling it around. It's important that we swirl it around into the vegetation, because this is where our bugs are going to be hiding. So I like to do lots of passes through the vegetation and try and loosen the bugs off of the grass. This will help us to actually catch lots of different types of bugs that will be hiding in all the little nooks and crannies. So a few passes is all you need. And then you can see in our net, we actually do have some vegetation, but also some bugs. Then you can just rinse your net right into your bucket. We want to make sure that we give it a good rinsing so everything comes off of our net. Once we have rinsed it off, we are good to go, and we have a bucket of bugs. And don't just try one spot in our pond. We can try different areas around our edges of our ponds, because all of our bugs might be living in different areas depending on what vegetation is in that area. So I encourage you to go out with your family and try different spots in the pond. Again, all you need is a small net and a bucket, and you're good to go. All right, boys and girls, so here we are at our second location. Now, when we look around this location, what do we see? It does look a little bit different from our pond. What do you think? I think so. Our pond was pretty still, the water wasn't moving, But here, our water is moving quite fast. That might be a difference. What else is different? As we look around, it might aesthetically look a little bit different, but everything that goes into a healthy ecosystem and a healthy habitat is basically the same as our pond. We're gonna want lots of vegetation along the edges, along with lots of shrubs and bushes and trees. All of those things are gonna go in and help create a healthy habitat for our aquatic invertebrates. And this area that flows right along the edges of the river, this is known as our riparian area. This is also what we had at the pond. All the edges surrounding the pond are known as our riparian area. This area should be filled with lots of grasses and shrubs and trees, like we have seen so far, so it can add to the health of our stream. Now, how does it add to the health of our stream? Well, it adds aquatic invertebrates. Like we said at the pond, all these aquatic invertebrates are gonna need food and shelter to survive. They're gonna feed off of the vegetation on the edges, and then the other bugs that are predatory bugs will feed off those bugs, and so on and so forth. But as long as we have bugs, we will have salmon. And that is a really important fact too. And just like our bugs, our salmon are also going to need food and shelter to survive. Our aquatic invertebrates are very important to our salmon fry here in the river. And so is the riparian zone. The riparian zone along the river isn't just important for bugs, but it's important for all creatures in and out of the river, just like our salmon. Our salmon are also going to live in the grasses because they like to camouflage themselves just like the bugs. What about the shady zones that the trees provide? Those shady zones can provide pockets that the fish can actually hide in from birds and other predators that might be feeding off for them. So just like our bugs, our salmon can then hide in their shady spots, have some shelter, and also be able to have some food, which is very important. So again, with collecting bugs on the side of the river, it's very important that we have our bucket and our net and some nice riparian zone to play in. So as we get started again, along the river edges, all you're gonna need is your bucket and your net from home. We're gonna fill our bucket with some water because all of these bugs are aquatic and will need water to survive. So we'll fill our bucket with some water, lots of water, and then we can start digging around with our net. So again, we want to scoop around in the vegetation and see if we can loosen up any of our aquatic invertebrates off of the vegetation. Do lots of passes. The more passes you go and the different areas that you go, you'll be able to find more and more bugs. Don't just try one spot, try multiple spots because you never know where they might be hiding. Then we can empty our net back into our bucket and then start identifying what species we might have. We also might get lots of vegetation, but don't be fooled by the vegetation, boys and girls. Some bugs like to hide in there, and then they can actually cling on and be in your bucket, and you might not ever know. One difference on the river is that you might find different species in the river than you might in the pond, which makes it really, really fun to maybe do both. So as you go out with your families, see if you can maybe find 2 different areas, then you might be able to find a few different species of aquatic invertebrates. So boys and girls, we are now back at the Kingfisher Interpretive Center. We have gone out and we've collected all of our bugs. And now we are here. I have an ice cube tray full of water, a plastic spoon, and a bowl. This is perfect when you are looking at all your bugs because we can easily scoop them up with our spoon and sort them into different categories. So as we dive into this bowl, first we are going to see that we have mayflies. So boys and girls, let's see if we can catch one of these mayflies. And here we go. This is the fun part because we get to see all the different bugs and all the challenging ways to try and catch them. All right, so here we go. We have one right here in our spoon. So this is a mayfly. Now, boys and girls, mayflies are very important because they are very sensitive to pollution. Now, why would that be important? Well, mayflies are sensitive to pollution because they're pollution intolerant, and they can be an indicator species for us to be able to tell if our water is healthy or unhealthy in a way that we can see, is our water clean? Does it have pollution in it or does it not? And right now we can tell we have lots of different mayflies in this bowl, so we can say that our water is very healthy. Now, why is healthy water important? Well, healthy water means lots and lots of bugs, which means it'll bring lots of salmon back into the rivers so they have lots of different food. All our young salmon fry will be feeding on all these different bugs, and it is important to have lots of them. So what else do we have? So boys and girls, when you're looking into your bowl, what do you think would be a good bug in your bowl? What about a dragonfly? Most people know that dragonflies are flying around all the time, but they also live in the water when they are young. So this is a dragonfly right here. The cool part about dragonflies, boys and girls, is they have gills just like our salmon, but their gills are in a different spot. Where do you think their gills might be? Well, boys and girls, their gills are actually called rectal gills, and this is because they are in their lower region of their body. They're actually located in their bum. I know that seems silly, but it helps them different ways of swimming away, and so they don't get caught by young salmon fry or eaten, because they can actually use those gills to jet propel themselves away from salmon trying to come and get them. So what else do we have in our bowl? Well, as we scoop around, we have caddisflies. Now, boys and girls, caddisflies are very, very cool because they actually form an outer shell protecting system. And in this system, they use rocks and leaves and a bunch of different kinds of things that they find in their habitat to try and protect themselves and to camouflage themselves to their surroundings. This camouflage helps them protect them so they won't get eaten. So as you can see here, he's starting to crawl out of his little shell and move around. So we can also put him into our ice cube tray. And now remember, when your caddisflies, depending on if we caught them in the pond or if we caught them in the river, they're gonna have different things. If our caddisfly came from the river, there's gonna be lots of rocks and little sands and gravels from that habitat. But if they're in the pond, they're gonna cover themselves in leaves and needles from the pond in that habitat. So they'll look a little bit different to camouflage themselves to their surroundings. What else do we have? Well, boys and girls, we have one very special bug that I just found. And this one is really cool because he actually looks like a stick, but it's not. Boys and girls, this is called a water scorpion, and he's quite larger than our other bugs. And they like to camouflage themselves as sticks. So you can see him right here. And boys and girls, as you see they go along, they have this really fancy tube at the back of them. Now that tube, boys and girls, is actually a tube. And they can use that as a scuba diving tube. So we're gonna put him back in the water. And he was actually a male as well. We can tell he's a male because they have little red dots all over him, and that's actually eggs. So he's trying to carry around all of his young right now. The females don't do that. They actually give them to the males. So boys and girls, all of these bugs are very important, and they're important because they help nutrient cycle, plus they are part of a really big food chain to our key species, the salmon. Now, when we look at our dragonflies are actually voracious predators. So they actually go out and they eat other bugs. But not all bugs eat bugs. Some bugs, like our mayfly, actually like to eat vegetation. And that's why they live in vegetation along our ponds and along our rivers. So trees will help lower all of their leaves. The leaves will fall into the river and become food and vegetation for bugs to hide in, and they can help our bugs grow. This will help produce lots and lots of bugs, and the more bugs, the more food for salmon. So our bugs eat the leaves and vegetation from the trees. Then as they grow nice and big, they become food for our salmon. Now, boys and girls, what do you think the salmon feed? Well, they actually feed our trees. So that means, boys and girls, that our salmon, or our trees, eat our salmon. Have you ever seen a tree eat a salmon? Probably not. But when our salmon come back into the river, they grow nice and big, they'll lay all their eggs, and then they'll be done their life cycle. They will then die and decompose into the soil, which will be food and nutrients for our trees to go nice and tall. Then those trees will go nice and tall, and they'll shed all their leaves and needles back into the stream for our bugs, which grow nice and big for our salmon. So boys and girls, this is a very fun activity to do with your family and your friends. All you need is a bug net and a bowl and a bucket and some water, and and you can go out and start collecting in your own streams around your own homes.